if you were an animal, what animal would you be? Hi, it's Lee. Welcome to another Learn English with Lee grammar lesson. Okay, so it's a fun question, isn't it? If you were an animal, what animal would you be? It's a question which I really like to ask my students in my class because I can get some really interesting and fun answers. But I don't just ask for fun. I ask because it's a very good example of a second conditional sentence. But before we look at the meaning, the form and the pronunciation of this very important grammar construction, let's answer the question. If you were an animal, what animal would you be? Would you be a lion? Because lions are the king of the jungle, and so are you. Or maybe you would be a hippo, because you just like having baths. Or maybe you would be a sloth, because, I don't know, you're very cute, but you're actually quite lazy. For me, I would be a wolf. Why a wolf, you ask? Well, for me, a wolf is a strange combination of an elegant animal and a wild animal. And you put the two together and it's quite unique. And in my mind, this is how I see myself. Okay, so let's use this example. If I were an animal, I would be a wolf. Now, the first thing that you notice, similar to zero and first conditional in the videos that we've looked at before, is we have one sentence, but two clauses. Now, do you remember what is a clause? Well, a clause is a part of a sentence which has a tensed time verb in it. So if we look at the first clause, if I were an animal, what is the tensed verb here? Yeah, it's were. And what about in the second clause? I would be a wolf. What is the verb here? The verb here is be, correct. So we've got two clauses, but we've got one sentence. Okay, good. Why? What is the relationship between these two clauses? How do these two clauses work together? Well, if we look at the first part, if I were an animal. This part of the sentence is the situation. Okay? In this situation, the other clause happens. So the other clause is the result of the situation. This is a little bit confusing when we talk about second conditional. So let's go back one step and use a first conditional example, and I say, if you go there, you will have a good time. So here we can see if you go there is the situation, have a good time is the result. If you go there, good time. Don't go there, don't have good time. Okay, so the same relationship happens in a second conditional. It is a little bit stranger, and we're going to look at why in a minute, but it's the same relationship. So this part, the situation, the condition, we call the conditional clause. Then the second part, I would be a wolf, is our main clause. This is what happens in this situation. In the situation of me being an animal, I am a wolf. So we've got the conditional clause is the situation, and the main clause is the result, the thing that happens. Okay, but I said it's a strange example. Why is it such a strange example? Well, let me ask you a very important question. Am I an animal? No. Can I be an animal? No. But can I be an animal if I work really, really hard? No. I can never be an animal. So is this situation a real situation? It is not. It is unreal. So this is a very important point. We use second conditional when we're talking about unreal situations. Situations where you need to use your imagination to complete the idea. Another very common example of this is when I give advice and I say, if I were you. I am not you. I can never become you. I'm using my imagination to complete this thought. So if I were you, I would study phrasal verbs. I know this is advice that you didn't want to hear, but I really mean it. If I were you, to improve your English, I would study phrasal verbs. But wait, I need to tell you something very important. I've heard some teachers and I've read in some books that second conditional is used to talk about impossible situations. This is only half true. Yes, in my two examples, if I were an animal, if I were you, it's impossible. Yes, true. But we can also use second conditional to talk about possible situations, but where the possibility is very, 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 very small. A good example here is if you have a lottery or a lotto in your country. Every week in the UK we have a lottery and the prize is £10 million. Okay? Every week somebody wins. So it is possible to win. But what is the possibility of me winning? It's very, 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 very small. But it is possible. So I can still use my imagination and make a sentence like, if I won the lottery, I would buy a Porsche. No. If I won the lottery, I would buy 7 Porsches. One for Monday, one for Tuesday, one for Wednesday, and so on. Okay, this will probably not happen, but it is a little bit possible. So I can still use second conditional because I am still using my imagination to complete the thought. So, just to conclude, we can use second conditional, yeah, for impossible situations, but also possible situations, but where the possibility is very small. So I like to put these two together and say that we use second conditional when we need to use our imagination to complete the thought. Okay, great. So that's the meaning in quite a lot of detail there. So sorry to keep talking about the meaning, but it is very important actually that we understand this unreal concept. But now let's look at the form. So we said we've got our two clauses. So if we start with our conditional clause, so if I were an animal, a conditional clause, or sometimes we call it the if clause because it needs if. So we have if and then a subject, I, you, he, she, we, they, it, my brother, your sister, countries beginning with the letter A, cats under 5 years old, whatever. Then we have the verb. What is the verb here? Is it past, present, or future? It's in the past, isn't it? If plus subject plus past. Teacher, are we talking about the past? No, we are not. Actually, we are talking about the present. Teacher, I don't understand. Why do we use past verb to talk about the present? Yeah, that's actually a very good question. And remember we said it's because the second conditional is not real. So yes, we're talking about the present, but we're talking about an unreal present. And if we use the past here instead of the present, it creates a feeling of distance. Distance from what? Distance from reality. We're using our imagination here, so we want to be far from reality. And using the past to talk about the present does this very well. But to be honest, this is just a feeling that you need to develop with this language. If you don't quite understand that concept, to be honest, don't worry about it. Just remember in your head the construction, conditional clause, second conditional, if plus subject plus past. Okay, and what about the main clause? Well, we've got a subject, then we've got the modal verb would. Again, why are we using would? Because would is a very good word for creating distance. And in this case, like in the conditional clause, we're creating distance from reality. So would is very good. Again, this is just a feeling that you need to develop just from hearing the language a lot. If you don't understand the feeling about the distance, that's okay. Just remember the construction. Okay, so then we've got subject plus would plus infinitive without to, because would is a modal verb. So no to, no ing, no past, no third person s. Yep, so subject plus verb plus infinitive without to. Then we have our second conditional sentence. If I were an animal, I would be a wolf. Okay, so that's the meaning and the form. What about the pronunciation? Well, to be honest, I'm actually going to do the pronunciation in a lot of detail in some pronunciation workshop videos. But for this video, the number one important thing I need to tell you is to contract the modal verb would. I would be a wolf. I'd be a wolf. Why is that? Well, in English, in spoken English, if you can contract, you should contract, and you will sound much more natural if you do that. So I would never say, if I were an animal, I would be a wolf. It just sounds too robotic. I would say, if I were an animal, I'd be a wolf. Okay, perfect. That is second conditional done. Okay, it's a very confusing conditional, especially some situations you don't really know if you want to use second or first conditional. And then we've got the idea about, is it talking about the past or the present? So it does get a little bit confusing. So it's really important that you understand second conditional very well before you can move on to third and mixed conditionals. Actually, I'm going to upload some grammar exercise videos very soon, so you can check those videos if you want more practice. Or of course, if you have any questions, please leave me a comment and I will do my best to answer any question you have. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching and see you in another video.